Hello everyone. Have you ever felt like the harder you work, the further behind you fall? By the end of this lesson, you will understand exactly why that happens, and you will walk away with the one shift in thinking that breaks the pattern for good. This lesson is for English learners who want more than words. It's for your mind, your future, your money. If you are in your 40s, working a steady job, paying your bills, and still feeling stuck, this is for you. Here is the truth most people never hear. Working hard was never the problem. Working hard the wrong way, that is the problem. You can wake up at 5 in the morning, work until your back hurts, and still end the year with nothing saved. Meanwhile, someone who works fewer hours than you builds real wealth year after year. It has nothing to do with luck. It has nothing to do with talent. It is a different set of rules, rules that nobody taught you in school, nobody taught you at your job, and nobody taught you at home. A poor mindset asks, how many hours can I work today? A rich mindset asks, how much value can I create today? Those two questions sound similar. They are not. One keeps you trading your life for a paycheck. The other builds something that keeps paying you long after the work is done. You have likely spent 20 years, maybe more, being told that the answer to money problems is simple. Work harder, work longer, take on more shifts. And you did. You showed up. You did not complain. You provided for the people who depend on you, and that deserves real respect. But somewhere along the way, the math stopped working in your favor, and nobody sat you down to explain why. Stay with me through all 6, because the order matters, and the last one changes how you see everything before it. 6 lessons stand between where you are now and where you want to be. Each one is simple. None of them require you to quit your job tomorrow or take a wild risk with your family's future. They require something harder. They require you to think differently than you have thought for the last 20 years. Hard work fills your day. The right mindset fills your future. Keep that sentence close, because you will hear it again before this lesson ends. Lesson 1. You are trading time for money, and time runs out. Think about your paycheck for a moment. Every dollar in it came from hours you already spent. Those hours are gone. You cannot buy them back, no matter how much money you make later in life. This is the first trap of the middle class, and almost nobody sees it while they are inside it. There was a man named Robert. He worked at a manufacturing plant for 22 years. He never missed a shift. He never complained. Every 2 weeks, a check arrived, and every 2 weeks, most of it left again. For rent, for groceries, for the car payment. Robert was proud of his work ethic. He should have been. But pride in effort is not the same as progress in wealth. Robert looked up one day and realized he had traded 22 years of his life for a slightly bigger version of the same paycheck he started with. Here is what most people miss. A job pays you for time. A skill, a system, an asset, these pay you for value, and value can multiply while you sleep. Warren Buffett once said that if you do not find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die. That sentence sounds harsh. It is also completely true. This does not mean your job is worthless. It means your job alone will never be enough, because time is the one resource you cannot create more of. You can work overtime. You can pick up a second job. You can grind through 50 more years. But you will still be trading hours for dollars. One at a time, forever. Think about the ceiling on this trade. There are only 24 hours in a day, and you already give roughly a third of them to sleep, another third to your job. And what remains gets split between family, chores, and whatever energy is left over. Even if your employer doubled your hourly rate tomorrow, you would still be limited by the same 24 hours everyone else has. The ceiling never moves. Only the value you attach to each hour can move, and that value only grows once you stop selling raw hours and start selling results, skills, or ownership. Look at the two men side by side. One spends his entire career negotiating for a slightly higher hourly rate, fighting for every extra dollar in a system with a hard ceiling built into it. The other spends the same years building a small skill on the side, a repair service, a piece of content, a simple product, something that does not care whether he is standing there at that exact moment. 10 years later, the first man has a better hourly rate and the exact same ceiling. The second man has something that grew quietly while he slept, while he coached his kids' team, while he lived his actual life. The shift starts here. Stop asking how many more hours you can find. Start asking what you can build that earns without you standing there every single minute. That single change in thinking is worth more than any raise your boss will ever give you. Lesson 2. Nobody taught you how money actually works. Think back to school. You learned history. You learned algebra. Did anyone ever sit you down and explain what an asset is, or how interest works against you instead of for you? Most people finish 12 years of school, sometimes more, and step into adult life without a single class on how money moves. This gap is not an accident, and it is not your fault. But at some point, it becomes your responsibility to close it. A working man in his 40s often carries a quiet shame about this. He feels like everyone else somehow knows something he missed. He does not ask questions because he is afraid. The questions will sound simple. Let this lesson remove that fear completely. The questions are simple. Almost nobody was ever taught the answers. Here is one answer that changes everything. An asset is something that puts money into your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. A house you live in, a car you drive, a boat sitting in the driveway. These feel like wealth, but if they cost you money every month, they are liabilities wearing the costume of success. James Clear, who spends his life studying habits, points out that small decisions repeated for years become your entire financial identity. A man does not go broke from one bad month. He goes broke from 20 years of decisions nobody ever explained to him properly. Consider a coworker of yours, someone who seems to be doing well. New truck outside, nice television, a boat sitting in the driveway all summer. From the outside, it looks like success. Look closer, and you often find a mountain of monthly payments holding that picture together. Meanwhile, a quieter coworker, driving an older car, keeps buying small pieces of ownership, a little bit of stock, a small rental property, a share in a friend's business. 10 years pass. The man with the truck is still making payments on a new truck. The quiet man now owns something that pays him back every single month. You are not behind because you are not smart enough. You are behind because nobody handed you the manual. Today, you are picking it up. Read one book about money this year. Ask one honest question to someone who has built wealth. Small steps, repeated, become the education you never received, the same way small repeated practice once turned you into someone skilled enough to be trusted at your job. Think about how you learned your current trade. Nobody expected you to master it in one afternoon. You watched someone more experienced, you made mistakes, you slowly built understanding over months and years. Money works the exact same way. You are not expected to understand interest rates and ownership structures overnight. You are only expected to start. The same way you started your first day on the job, a little unsure, a little behind, and willing to learn anyway. Lesson 3. Comfort is the quiet killer of wealth. There is a strange kind of trap that comes with a steady paycheck. It feels safe. Safe enough that you stop asking hard questions. Safe enough that 30 years pass, and you wake up one day realizing safety was never the same thing as freedom. People with a poor mindset hold tightly to what feels familiar, even when it is slowly running out. The stronger approach gets uncomfortable on purpose, because growth almost never lives inside your comfort zone. David Goggins built his entire life around this one idea. He says most people quit long before their body actually gives out. They quit because their mind decided comfort mattered more than growth. Picture two coworkers on the same factory floor. Same job, same pay, same hours. One of them spends every evening in front of the television, telling himself he is too tired to think about anything else. The other spends 30 minutes a night learning one new skill, reading one chapter, studying one way to build something on the side. 5 years later, their paychecks might still look similar. Their lives do not. One of them built an exit. The other built a longer version of the same routine, still waiting for a raise that was never going to be large enough to matter. The hardest part of this lesson is that comfort never announces itself as dangerous. Nobody feels their savings account draining while they relax on the couch. Nobody feels 5 years slip away while the same evening routine repeats itself. Comfort is quiet, and that is exactly what makes it dangerous. It does not attack you. It simply keeps you exactly where you already are, while everything around you, prices, competition, opportunities, keeps moving forward without you. Nobody is asking you to burn your comfort down overnight. Even 10 minutes a day of deliberate, uncomfortable growth compounds faster than most people believe. Your hours fill the day. Your mindset fills the years after it. The mindset shift starts the moment you choose growth over comfort, even in something small. Think honestly about your own evenings this week. How many of them ended the exact same way as the evening before? There is nothing wrong with rest. Real rest matters. But there is a difference between resting on purpose and disappearing into the couch simply because thinking about anything else feels too heavy tonight. The men who change their financial story are rarely the ones with more free time than you. They are the ones who protect 30 minutes of that free time for something that moves them forward, even on the tired nights, especially on the tired nights. If you are getting value from this lesson so far, take 30 seconds and let this channel know. It helps more men in their 40s find this exact message when they need it most. Now, back to the shift that changes everything. Lesson 4. Patience is a financial skill, not a personality trait. Most people believe patience is something you either have or you do not. That belief keeps them poor. Patience with money is a skill, and like any skill, it grows with practice. Think about a seed. You cannot plant it in the morning and expect a tree by dinner. Yet this is exactly how most people treat money. They want the reward in the same week they made the decision. When it does not arrive, they quit, and they call the whole idea a failure. There was a woman named Elena, a nurse working double shifts to support her 2 kids. For 3 years, she put aside a small amount from every paycheck, an amount so small it barely felt like sacrifice. Her coworkers spent theirs on things that disappeared within days. 3 years later, Elena had a foundation. Her coworkers had the same paycheck they started with, and a drawer full of receipts for things they could no longer remember buying. The weaker approach spends first and saves whatever is left, which is usually nothing. Saving first and living on whatever remains works the opposite way. This single order of operations, saving before spending instead of spending before saving, separates people who build wealth from people who simply survive their paycheck. There is a reason this order matters so much. When you save first, the amount you save becomes untouchable, almost invisible, and your spending simply adjusts around whatever remains. When you spend first, there is rarely anything left to save, no matter how much you earn, because spending always finds a way to expand until it fills the space available. Income has surprisingly little to do with it. Men earning very different salaries can end up saving the exact same amount, or the exact same nothing, depending entirely on which comes first in their monthly routine. Patience does not mean doing nothing. It means doing the small, boring thing consistently, long after it stops feeling exciting. That is the part nobody shows you on social media. The wealth comes after the boredom, not before it. Elena never posted about her 3 years of small, quiet saving. There was nothing dramatic to show. No new car, no vacation photos, nothing that photographs well. What she had instead, at the end of those 3 years, was options. Options her coworkers, still living paycheck to paycheck, simply did not have when their own emergencies eventually arrived. Lesson 5. One paycheck is a risk, not a plan. If your entire financial life depends on one employer, one paycheck, one manager's decision, you are standing on a single leg and calling it stable ground. This is not meant to scare you. It is meant to wake you up gently, before life wakes you up the hard way. Jeff Bezos did not build Amazon by staying inside the one thing he already knew. He looked for a second stream, then a third, then a 10th. You do not need to build a company that size. You need to build one more stream than you have right now, one more source of income, no matter how small it starts. Here is a real scenario. A man named Marcus worked as an electrician for 18 years. Solid job, solid pay. On weekends, he started fixing small wiring jobs for neighbors, cash in hand, nothing fancy. Within 2 years, that weekend work became a second stream, worth almost a third of his main paycheck. When his company went through layoffs, half his department lost everything overnight. Marcus lost one stream and still had 2 others standing, and his family barely felt the shock that flattened half his old department. Notice what actually protected Marcus. It was not a bigger emergency fund, though that helps too. It was the simple fact that his income no longer depended on one decision-maker. When one door closed, 2 others were already open, quietly earning in the background, while he searched for his next full-time position. That search took him 4 months. His weekend work covered nearly all of his family's bills during those 4 months, and his family never knew how close they came to real trouble. The weaker belief says, "My job will always be there." A strong mindset says, "I will build so many streams that losing one does not sink me." This is not about greed. It is about not placing your family's entire future in the hands of a single decision-maker who does not know your name. Start small. One skill you already have, offered to one more person for $1 more. That is how every second stream begins. You do not need a business plan or a loan from the bank to start. You need one honest look at what you already know how to do, something people already ask your help with for free. A neighbor who calls you every time something breaks. A friend who always asks you to help fix his car. None of that is a coincidence. That is a stream sitting right in front of you, waiting for you to finally charge for what you were already giving away. Lesson 6. You become what you believe you deserve. This is the deepest lesson, and it is the one most people skip past too quickly. Every number in your bank account is downstream from a belief you carry about what you deserve. You can learn every strategy in this lesson and still stay stuck if some quiet voice inside you believes people like you do not end up wealthy. Viktor Frankl survived one of the darkest periods in human history, and he wrote that everything can be taken from a man except one thing, the last of the human freedoms, the freedom to choose his attitude in any given set of circumstances. Your circumstances right now, your age, your job, your bank account, none of that decides your future by itself. Your attitude toward it does. A poor mindset whispers, "People like me do not get ahead." A strong mindset answers back, "People like me are exactly the ones who turn things around because they finally decided to." That whisper has been running quietly in the background of your mind for years, maybe since childhood, maybe since your first hard year of adulthood. Today, you get to answer it out loud instead of letting it win by default. Think about where that whisper first started. Maybe a parent said money was not for people like your family. Maybe a teacher told you to be realistic instead of ambitious. Maybe you watched someone you loved work themselves into the ground and never get ahead, and some part of you quietly decided that was simply how life works for men like you. None of that was ever proof. It was only a story, repeated so many times it started to sound like fact. Stories can be rewritten at any age, starting today. Belief alone does not pay a single bill, but belief decides whether you even try the 5 lessons that came before this one. A man who believes he does not deserve wealth will read every strategy in the world and quietly talk himself out of using any of them. A man who believes he deserves better will take the exact same strategies and simply start, imperfectly, today. Because he finally stopped waiting for permission. That was never coming from anyone else. You are in your 40s. That is not too late. That is exactly old enough to have learned what does not work, and exactly young enough to spend the next 20 years building something that finally does. Effort alone already filled your last 20 years. Let the right mindset finally fill the 20 still ahead of you. Believe that you deserve more than survival, and then act like it, one decision at a time. Let's bring this together. You now know 6 things that most men your age were never taught. Trading time for money has a ceiling, while value, skills, and ownership do not. Nobody ever handed you a manual for how money actually works, and closing that gap is now in your hands, not anyone else's. Comfort feels safe while it quietly drains 20 years without asking your permission. Patience with money is a skill you build through small, boring, repeated decisions, not a personality trait you either have or lack. One paycheck is a risk dressed up as a plan, and a second stream, however small it starts, is real protection for the people who depend on you. And every number in your bank account eventually traces back to a belief about what you deserve, a belief you now have full permission to rewrite. None of these 6 lessons require you to be 25 years old. None of them require a business degree, a lucky break, or a rich uncle. They require the same thing that got you through every hard shift, every double, every difficult year of providing for your family. They require you to keep showing up, except now you are showing up for a different set of questions. Not how many more hours can I give? How much more value can I create? Not what feels safe today. What builds freedom for the next 20 years? Not what did my father believe about money? What do I choose to believe? Starting right now. A working man in his 40s has something most 25-year-olds do not have yet. He has already proven he can commit to something hard for years, without quitting, without excuses, and without anyone standing over his shoulder to make him show up. He has already carried real weight for people he loves, through hard winters and harder years. That same discipline, pointed toward these 6 lessons, instead of only toward the clock, is more than enough to change the next 20 years completely. 20 years from now, you will be in your 60s either way. The only question worth asking tonight is which version of that future you are quietly building right now, one ordinary decision at a time. The version still trading every hour for a paycheck with a hard ceiling, or the version who finally learned the rules nobody taught him, used every year that was left to build something real, and stopped waiting for someone else to hand him permission he already had the whole time. Hard work fills your day. The right mindset fills your future. Say that to yourself again tomorrow morning, before the day pulls you back into old habits. It will not fix everything by itself, but it will remind you, every single time, which question to ask. Keep listening, improve your English one story at a time, and keep growing your mindset right alongside it. If this lesson gave you something real today, tell me in the comments which of these 6 lessons hit you the hardest. Someone reading your comment tomorrow might need to hear exactly that one. Until next time, keep building the life your hard work has always deserved.